I don't know if folks on your end were able to hear that ad that I did for Labor Day, but I couldn't hear on my end, but that's okay. I am coming to you today on our second live show. I'm getting texts through my phone, and that's okay because people want to talk to us and hear about what's going on in District 3 and citywide. So I'm here to talk to y'all and here to listen. My name is Carol Fife. I'm a candidate for Oakland City Council District 3. And today we're going to hear from some very, very important voices in the labor fight, in the labor struggle, folks who are carrying on the traditions of ages past and to a new era of what it looks like to fight for workers. So I'm going to get right into it. We have several guests on with us today. And the first guest is a very, very special person to me. It is Deborah Gravel. She is the president of Local 21, IFPTE Local 21. And she is going to talk to us about the current struggles for city workers. And it's really important that we understand what city workers experience at the city of Oakland because of what they provide to the residents. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome Deborah Gravel.
Hi, and hi, everybody. It's really great to see you and everyone. One minor thing, I'm the executive director. Our president is Gus Vallejo, who is an amazing leader in his own right and a longtime resident. So just, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for the correction. The executive director. What is that? What do you all do? What exactly is Local 21? Who do you represent? And can you tell us a little bit about your work?
Sure. Pertinent to this, we represent about 1,000 working people in the city of Oakland. We're engineers, we're management, we're planners, we're economic workforce development and housing officers. We do a lot in the city to protect our rights. And, we've been there for many years, and we see ourselves as serving the community. Public service is really service to the community.
So tell us a little bit then about something that is important to me. You just listed housing. How do your members engage in the housing process in the city of Oakland? Like, what exactly do you all do?
Yeah, great question. So we work in housing and community development. We help enforce, the Just Cause ordinance that's in the city of Oakland, which is an important ordinance. One of the struggles that we have in Oakland is a lot of our members, they could be earning a lot more in the private sector, but they're committed to the city of Oakland and they're want to do their work well, and we're extremely understaffed in Oakland. Oakland actually has one of the highest vacancy rates in the Bay Area, which translates to people doing 2 people's jobs often, sometimes even 3 people's jobs. And we want to be able to provide better service to the community.
How do you do that? How do you do that if you're currently understaffed? If the city workers could leave Oakland and go to where would they go? Like San Francisco, Emeryville, those city governments, and work in those governments. Will they earn more money if they leave Oakland?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, immediately they could earn thousands of dollars more a year. And, in the Bay Area where the economy is so tight, it's really challenging to retain staff. And it's not, the people who do stay are salt of the earth. They care about the community and are there because they love Oakland. Everyone, our members have a lot of pride in Oakland. I have a lot of pride in Oakland. I live in Oakland. I live in District 5 and have for almost 20 years, me and my daughter. So, there's a deep, deep love and commitment to Oakland for the staff that have been there for a long time and for the new people coming on who were attracted to Oakland's vision and the promise of Oakland. Oakland is unique in terms of the population, in terms of what it could be and what its promise is. And so that's why we're really excited about your candidacy, because it's a lot about fulfilling that vision and promise and making Oakland what it should be and, at different times what it has been.
So thank you, Deborah. I think that actually says a lot about who the workers are especially the ones who do stay here and don't leave for higher paying jobs in other cities. Those are the people who are truly committed to our city. Can you say more about why understaffing in city departments is an issue? Why should we care? If you're not a city worker, why should the average Oakland voter or the average Oakland resident care about staffing levels at the city?
Yeah, I think when you look at the areas where we have big numbers of vacancies in the city, where there are open jobs that are not filled, 1 in 5 of them are in housing and community development, economic and workforce development, and transportation and public works. These are things that are critical to run a city effectively. Housing is a huge issue in Oakland, and if you don't have a fully staffed housing and community development department, then we're going to be falling short and not serving Oakland the way that it should be. If we don't have, staff to deal with illegal dumping, to help, with affordable housing and set up programs and get grants, then, we're falling short of what we could be as a city. And we don't want to do that. We want to really excel. And I think 1 in 5 is an unacceptable number.
Right.
In terms of open vacancies.
I agree. And I can speak to that specifically because it was ACE and our staff and our members who worked tirelessly to get a set aside of $12 million in what was originally called a permanent affordability fund. And so that was money from the infrastructure bond that was supposed to serve Oakland residents that were at risk of displacement. And it was to give allocations to folks who would potentially be pushed out of the city to be able to save their house, right? But it had to go through HCD, Housing and Community Development. But HCD is one of those departments that you just listed that's understaffed. So if there are not enough staff in that department, all the money in the world that we have set aside to save people's homes from displacement doesn't roll out of the door in a timely manner so they could be pushed out before an application even gets processed. So I think what you raise is so critical, why we need fully staffed departments and why we need for our city to pay our workers a fair and decent wage so they don't leave and so we don't lose this historic knowledge of information that people have when they've been working in a position for a long time. So it doesn't leave out the door when they leave. So what you're saying is really, really important. It's important for us to understand the importance of city work to the quality of services that we all receive. So that's really, really important. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the other things is, like so many Oakland residents, a lot of our members, a lot of people who work for the city can no longer afford to live in the city. And that's really a travesty because people who've been here for generations are forced to move to Vallejo or other areas and then have to commute. And that's not good for any of us either. A lot of our members their families have been here for generations and are now seeing that they can't afford the rent or the mortgage in the town that they serve. And we want to be able to be in Oakland and contribute to the community that their families have grown up in.
I tell you, if I have folks working on our roads and they're city workers, I want them to be rested. I don't want them to have to drive in from Tracy and have to repair sewage pipes or manage our books and they haven't had enough sleep and they haven't had enough rest because they're commuting for 2 hours, 3 hours to get to work. And I do know in one of our last budget cycles, I did talk to some of your members who had moved and had been pushed out, like way out of the city. That's the only place they could afford to purchase homes, which is a luxury in and of itself, but they couldn't do it in Oakland. So I'm excited and I'm proud to have been endorsed by Local 21. I consider Local 21 family. And honestly, Deborah, you are one of the primary factors for why I'm running today. So I don't know how much you know, but like we are both introverts. We're both very shy, but it was your words of encouragement and support and so many different resources that have me in the race feeling encouraged to do this work. So I do want to say thank you for that. Well, I don't know if I should say thank you or if I should pinch you, But
No, I think that we should say thank you for being willing to actually step up and run, because you know, a lot of our members and a lot of people in this country right now feel like disheartened by politics and feel like politics doesn't really represent them. And part of, aside from corporate money influencing the system really in a huge way and making it so that politics doesn't truly represent the people anymore, part of the challenge is people like you who have good values, who have a strong work ethic, who have a strong vision, don't want to run and don't want to do it because it you know, it is so challenging. And we need more people like you to run. We need people in every spot to step up. If you're watching this and you're thinking about running somewhere and you have like vision like Carol has and commitment like Carol has, you need to step up. Right, because we need the help. Like it, you know, AOC said that 1,000 people like her have to run for one to get through, and I think that's true. We need 1,000 Carols to run, and we need you to win. So if you're also watching this, you need to volunteer for a phone bank shift, a tech shift. Like, you know, if you're inspired by anything that Carol's done or want your district, the district in Oakland to do better, like I'm actually calling on you to like do an extra shift before ballots go out.
Shay, thank you so much, Deborah. Everything you said is spot on, and I appreciate you. I thank you for your words. Is there anything else that you want to leave the viewers with today, just about the work that you're doing, what's coming up for you all? Is there anything else you want to share?
Yeah, I think just, you know, there's an important statewide ballot measure, Prop 15, Schools and Communities First. We're really advocating for people to vote yes on that. It would bring millions of dollars to Oakland and to Oakland schools, Oakland public schools, which are extremely underfunded as well. I think corporations in this state have gotten off with not paying their fair share, and that's why we're having a lot of the systematic problems we are having. So I think my only other message is to campaign and vote yes on Prop 15 as well, because we need the resources and we need people to pay their fair share.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Corporations.
That's right. From these corporations who have benefited from this property tax loophole. Deborah is absolutely correct. Everybody go and vote for the propositions. Vote yes on 15. Our state and our city absolutely need these critical funds. So Deborah Gravel, thank you so much for being with us tonight. I appreciate you eternally. And we're going to be talking soon.
Yeah, absolutely. See everyone else.
Yep, that's right. Bye. All right, you heard it here first. Like, we need to be paying attention to city workers and their contracts. They are the ones who are out there picking up illegal dumping. They're the ones making sure that our city is running, that we have staff in the housing department to process applications to get people secure in housing. There's so much that they do that we don't know about. So we appreciate Deborah for letting us know about it. There are also other frontline workers who are labor first responders. They are the folks who take care of us when we're hurt. I have some folks that I would love to come on right now and introduce themselves. Right now, there's a struggle in our local hospitals with our care providers having the necessary PPEs. So there she goes. We got Shakila. Shalika. I'm pronouncing you know what I need, Shalika? You know what I need? Boom. There she goes.
There you go.
So we got Shalika. Can you share with us who you are, where you're from, and what's going on in your particular industry right now?
My name is Shalika Carter. I am a community health outreach worker. I work in the sexual assault response and recovery team. So I'm a sexual assault, human trafficking, and domestic violence advocate and counselor at Highland Hospital in Oakland, California. I'm also a citizen of Alameda County, but in addition, I am a SEIU 10-to-1, one of the chapter leaders. We represent over 3,000 healthcare worker members in our chapter, and we are currently in bargaining and negotiations with our hospital system.
So what does that mean? You're in bargaining with your hospital system. Say it for people who might not be familiar with how labor unions work.
So as a labor union, we have what's called a MOU, or contract, or memorandum of understanding, between us, the union, and the organization or company, which is for us, Alameda Health System. And right now we are negotiating or having conversations around that contract between us and Alameda Health Systems.
So what is it in the contract that you're asking for? What are some of the key components of the contract conversation that you all really want to see?
So we're asking for quality patient care, which is one thing that's already in our contract. We're asking for more staffing, or what you would call increased staffing in critical care areas. So let me digress. We're basically trying to keep or found ourselves trying to salvage a contract that has nurse to patient ratios and staffing equality in it, and also be able to keep an affordable wage and shift differentials, which are important to the staffing levels, because we are a level 1 trauma center at Highland Hospital, but also a lot of our other clinics and hospitals that that are run by AHS have patients that come in from the communities that do not or cannot afford to go to private industry hospitals. And so a lot of what's in our contract protects the worker in order to protect the patients. And so wage, not in terms of cost of living wages, and that are that can sustain the worker to be able to actually commute and work in the city of Alameda County, or Alameda County, because it is so unaffordable for just the middle class worker to be able to stay here and do their job. So a lot of, like what Deborah said, a lot of our workers are commuting from Tracy and those places. But also to the quality patient care, just being able to keep up the staffing levels within our environmental services, the people who keep the hospitals clean and functioning, and the beds in our emergency rooms, to be able to keep them protected in their jobs, and to protect them with the ratios that they need to have in their departments. Also the differentials in shifts, and just a multitude of things I can kind of think of right now that Alameda Health Systems has decided to scratch out of our contract, or attempt to cross out and reconstruct in our contract.
Why would they be doing that, especially right now during a pandemic, where we need the environmental staff to make sure that the hospital stays clean and sanitized, or when we need our frontline workers, all of our nurses, all of our care personnel, to have what they need to be able to provide services to people who are coming in with the coronavirus?
That is the troubling message, and the message that we've been getting is that they have a budget problem. They have a crisis. We know that in terms of private corporation intercepting, we have a board of, we have a structure of leadership that has decided to contract out most of our services to outside corporate companies that they have private interest in, unfortunately, and to be able to fund those private corporations so that they are being paid on the back end. At public health systems don't make any money, but of course, using those type of tactics and practices to keep the money in their pockets is one way that they are trying to justify, not being able to either pay their workers, increase services, increase staffing, and right now getting rid of a lot of the workers and laying them off in the middle of COVID. I being one of those workers.
Did you just say that you were laid off?
Yes.
Can you go back and tell us again what role you provide, what service you provide at your hospital?
I'm a sexual assault, domestic violence, and human trafficking counselor. I respond bedside in the emergency department at Highland Hospital. And I am being laid off currently in retaliation for my role in coming on things like this and speaking out against AHS, which is another thing that is unfortunately happening during the pandemic, in addition to not receiving, first of all, the proper PPE that we need to stay safe within the hospital system, but then also a lot of the workers being retaliated against by receiving layoff notices in response to them speaking out. Carol, are you there?
I'm just going to jump on to say that I think we lost Carol really quick.
Okay, yeah. Am I still?
We are. We're still live. I think I just wait a second for Carol to. I think she probably lost her internet. She'll be right back.
Okay.
Hi, everybody.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can see you now.
Outstanding. So we had some technical problems because of me, but that's okay. So do you know if the funding from Prop 15 would be supportive of this public healthcare system? Is that funding sources that would potentially take away the argument that AHS has that there's no funding for whatever positions that you're talking about? Could that potentially help? Do you know?
I'm sure it could, but here's the deal. Their justification for laying us off isn't that they are underfunded within our program. We're funded through the California Office of Emergency Services, and also we're funded through the Coalition Against Rape, the California Coalition Against Rape, CalCASA. And so what we were told is they have actual increased funding and able to staff positions. We are, and let me digress, we are a group of advocates and community health outreach workers being replaced by medical social workers is what they're saying they're going to replace our jobs with.
So will these positions be privatized positions? I know you mentioned some of the positions get outsourced. Will these positions be outsourced as well?
No, they will be union level positions. They just won't be with the community health outreach workers that have been doing the job for over 3 years and that have been fighting for the patients and the care and victims within a disenfranchised system. So, and for all but no reason than that we are advocates and have been advocating for proper PPE, fair bargaining practices, and safe working conditions, because that's the other thing. Alameda Health System has failed to provide safe working conditions for its workers pre-COVID and now during the pandemic.
So it sounds like this is partially retaliation for you all speaking up and demanding better working conditions for the current employees at the hospital.
Correct. Yes. That has been the culture these days during our bargaining and negotiations with Alameda Health Systems, and not just mid-level management, but also within our labor department and our leadership that are signing off on these retaliatory and implementing these retaliatory practices.
So Shalika, what is your call to action? What do you want people to know, and how can they support your campaign right now? What are some things that we can do?
The one thing you can do is start writing to our Board of Supervisors of Alameda County and letting them know that you demand a better healthcare system for the workers, so that we are able to come to work safe and we are able to provide a safe environment for any patient that comes into those hospitals, especially the disadvantaged Black and Brown patients that we do serve, that they are able to receive the quality and equal health care that they deserve when they come in. But I think writing to our legislators, writing to you, and keeping all our council members in Oakland abreast on what's happening, and us and you joining in the fight, people that actually have the voice coming in and looking at these wrongs and these atrocities within the healthcare system and documenting it and bring it out. And then for our patients who are our constituents that they say have no voice, for you to come out and have a voice in your care as well. Many times our communities are taken advantage of in these ways. That it may not be what they feel is a direct attack on the patient, but when you attack the workers, it's a direct attack on the community and its patients. And I want everybody to know that. So sign those petitions. Go to our web pages. We have an Alameda County Coalition for Healthcare Communities on Facebook. We have petitions up to sign for vote of confidence in Alameda Health Systems, for the Board of Supervisors of Alameda County to take over a system that they can't afford to take care of. They can't afford to take care of the citizens of Alameda County any longer. And the only way that can happen is through county takeover and help from the resources that Alameda County is able to extract from the states and that sort of thing. Because right now, the system and the leadership that we have aren't equipped to do that. And they don't want to give it up, but they need to give it up. And I need the patients to let them know that they need to give it up so that they can have better care.
Thank you. I was just going to ask if we could get the link up so people can go to your website and find out more information. It's right there. Facebook.com, Alameda County Coalition for Healthy Communities. So I definitely implore everyone to go check it out. Shalika, count me in for the fight. I'm down. I think this is so important, especially right now. We cannot risk any more lives. And I'm not just talking about patients, I'm talking about the folks on the front lines, making sure that our communities are safe. So I appreciate you being here with us tonight. Everybody get on the line, sign the petitions, make some phone calls, and yeah, let's protect our frontline essential workers. Thank you, Shalika.
You're welcome. Thank you, Carol. Good luck.
Thank you. So right now, we're going to go ahead and take some questions if we have questions. So April, you can go ahead and cue those up, and I can take off these glasses, although I will probably have to read a little bit more. But I do want to hear from our volunteer folks. We got some people that are going to tell us a little bit about how the campaign is going and what our needs are. I will say things are working amazingly well, and we have Katie Chertoka on the line to give us a report back from the field. Katie, what's going on?
Right on. Hey, Carol, how's it going?
Hey,
You know?
it's going.
Yeah, you know,
Yeah.
it's the apocalypse or whatever. It's chill. Everything's fine.
It's chill.
Yeah,
Yes,
totally.
perfectly fine.
Totally. Honestly, getting on this call, I'm like hella nervous and have a lot of respect for you doing this every week in this platform, but then all the speaking that you're doing as a candidate for this campaign. Tons of respect. Yeah, hell yeah. Thank you, Carol. So yeah, we have had a ton of amazing volunteers sign up and really throw down to do some phone calls for the last couple of weeks. We've reached as many voters as we could by the phones. You know, not everyone's registered to vote with their phone number. So there are about 45,000 registered voters in District 3, and we've reached about half of them by phone, which is as many as we can. And so we are having to expand our strategy by reaching voters in person. You know, kind of bad timing with a pandemic and with the apocalypse, with the fires and the smoke. But we have really strict safety protocols around COVID that we're asking all the volunteers to engage, and we are asking folks to door knock. We got to reach the other half of the voters that we don't have phone numbers for, you know what I mean? They got to know about you. And what we're finding is that when folks find out about you, they're down. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so we just need to make sure folks know that they can vote for you. You know what I mean? And know what you're about.
Yeah, I've actually had people ask me at different events, how can we door knock for you? And I'm like, wait. You want to door knock?
Totally.
Don't you want to make phone calls? Don't you want to do texts? They're like, I want to knock on doors. And so can you tell us a little bit, Katie, about what we're doing to make sure people are safe if they do some lit drops or go to try to reach people at their home? What are some safety precautions that we're taking?
Totally. Yeah, so we are, we have a whole little sheet that's on every single clipboard that kind of outlines what we're asking folks to do. One is definitely everyone's asked to wear a mask that you have covering your nose and mouth the entire time. We're providing gloves for folks, disposable gloves. We're definitely asking everyone to adhere to 6 feet social distancing minimum. So if you go up to a door, knock on the door, step back at least 6 feet or more. You're never touching a voter. If you have a flyer to drop off to them, you drop it off, no contact. You know, there's never any need to engage in contact. So, and then, you know, we are getting folks like some tips in terms of how to keep that distance while you're out canvassing. So that's what we're putting in place for folks.
Okay, that's awesome. That's awesome. Can you say how many people have signed up to volunteer through our website?
Yeah, we've got about 500, close to 500 folks who have signed up to volunteer at this point. Yeah. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, that's a thing. Yeah. Yeah. People are all about
winner chicken dinner. What?
Totally. Yeah.
That's humbling.
Mm-hmm.
That's humbling. And that's amazing because once again, I think people right now are clamoring for something different. I recently saw a commercial ad for Donald Trump. He was saying that, like, you know, you don't want to live in a Biden America. You should fear a Biden America. But then we're showing like all these different images of cities around the country. And I'm like, that's a Trump America. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean? So the conditions that you're pointing out and highlighting in your commercial are on your watch. So
yeah,
I liken that to what we're experiencing right now. Right now, there are things happening and people want to do things differently, right? We want a different reality. And in order to have a different reality, we have to think about things differently. We cannot even approach them the way that they've been done historically, because historically has got us where we are right now. And I represent the change that people truly want to see. I represent so many voices, so many different communities, and it's not about me, it's about us. That's why I think we can have all of these different folks that are, I didn't know that it was close to 500 people right now. And those are just volunteers. Those are not even the people that are like, oh yeah, I'm going to volunteer for you. They're not on that yet. They're just like, I've heard about you and I want to vote for you. So I think that's a hugely humbling experience. And I appreciate you for your work and making sure that folks have things to do and are out there with all of their information. You're paying attention to the data and you're getting people to work. So Katie, hats off to you. I appreciate you, and I'm going to let you get back to work.
Right on. Can I tell folks a couple of ways to get involved right now before I get off?
Absolutely.
Hell yeah. Right on. I made a little list. You know, I'm looking at my list right now. Yeah.
I love this.
Lists. That's what's up. So one thing to really impress upon folks, and Deborah mentioned this earlier when she was speaking, is that Election Day, we all should have in our minds that Election Day is really October 6th, not November 3rd. Because folks are gonna, almost every single voter is getting a mail-in ballot this year, and mail-in ballots are sent on Monday, October 5th, which is in 25 days. So that means anyone who is thinking about volunteering needs to do it now. We've got 25 days to really secure a win for you. Everything after October 6th is kind of planned catch-up, catching all the people who we haven't been able to reach, but people can start voting on October 6th. So if you're thinking about door knocking, you can do so at carolfife.org/knock. Is how you can sign up to door knock. We have door knocking shifts 6 days a week. So please check that out. Starting on Monday next week, we canceled door knocking shifts this weekend because the air quality looks like it's going to be just too bad to send folks out, you know? So Monday is the day to start knocking on doors if you can. If you can't, all good. We have phone calls that you can make, and you can sign up for a phone banking shift. We have phone banking shifts 7 days a week at carolfife.org/call. These tricky codes, you know, knock, call. Yeah, totally. The other thing that we're asking every single person, even if you can't ever come to a door knocking shift or a phone banking shift, help us close the gap of the phone numbers that we don't have and the amount of voters that we need to contact by doing some good old organizing of your networks. People who you know in D3, call them. Ask them to fill out this simple Google form, which is bit.ly/C4C network form. And if they fill out that form, we'll have their name, phone, address, and then we can contact them. But it's a great opportunity to call folks and talk to them about the issues, because that's really what you're about, is the issues. And so we're just going to be talking with folks and organizing them around the things that we care about. So everyone who's watching this, we want as many D3 voters as possible to fill out that form. That's a good way to help us, even if you can't ever come to a shift. And this weekend, as we're all probably going to be trapped inside because of terrible air quality, we can be getting this form out there. So yeah, that's how they can help right now.
That's awesome.
And yes,
I'm going to get it to my neighbors.
That's what's up. That's what's up. And the link that is just getting put up right there is we did develop a script to help guide you through those calls for your networks if you want that support. And that's the link to that script right there.
Yeah. I'm going to need that script.
I don't think so.
So no, this is great. So thank you, Katie. I'm definitely going to take advantage of letting my networks know that they need to vote for me. And it's important that this is a ranked choice election. Right now, there's a forum happening that I couldn't attend, and there are some choices. It's not just me that's running. We have some other community advocates who've contributed to their neighborhoods for years. We have Faye Taylor. She's a member of ILWU. She's running. We have Moran Semdar. I'm not sure much about him, but I know that there's at least 5 candidates running. Seneca Scott, longtime organizer and also really into food justice and land sovereignty. A lot of choices, and the people that are running are not doing so just because they want to take out an incumbent. They really want to see their neighborhoods better. So it's important to remember something Katie said. October 6th is the real election day. So make sure people are voting way before we get to November. And that folks have options, right? Carol. Vote down ballot, vote for propositions too. Thank you, Katie. I
Thanks,
appreciate you.
Ditto.
All right, talk soon. All right. You know, last week, y'all, was our first day of this show. This is nerve-wracking, but it's so important. So I'm down to do it. I'm down to hear, I'm down to listen to y'all, I'm down to talk. It's a challenge. It's a challenge when you're not used to talking or not wanting to talk, but there's so many critical issues. I'm so glad that I can have guests on talking about issues that are important to our district and to the city. So tell me people that you want to hear from. Tell me about issues you care about. Other propositions that are important to me this year are schools and communities first, of course. My organization is one of the founding organizations that was a part of making it fair years ago when we first tried to get the Prop 13 reform on the ballot. And we are still very much a part of running campaigns with teams in several parts of the state who are working on passing the proposition. There are lots of, actually, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna have Tanya Love on the show so we can go through the entire ballot and we can do a ballot review for everybody to get on board with, so we can go through every one, like proposition by proposition. So folks can get a clear understanding of what's in front of them this year and, you know, what progressives care about. I think it's also important to understand that we said last week that we're going to do a 30-minute show. I don't know how these shows keep ending up going way over 30 minutes. We're going into 45 minutes right now, but it's an opportunity to hear more and talk to people. I have another question. What will be the new Oakland agenda? I think that's a great question. I don't think Oakland is a monolithic group. There are several different diverse communities that live here, many diverse agendas. So we can't say what the Oakland agenda is. I will say what mine is, and that's an equitable agenda that lifts up the people who lived here for generations and the people who are trying to make Oakland home, but want to do so in a way that's affordable and respectful and builds a community versus taking over and completely remaking the city. I know our previous mayor and previous governor, Jerry Brown, had a 10K plan to build up the city by any means necessary. And so what that meant for many residents in the city of Oakland is deep, deep gentrification without any concern or care for historic populations. My partner says all the time, he said, either we can have gentrification or slumpification. There is no in between. So we've been on this fast track to develop luxury market rate housing, which has displaced thousands of residents, primarily Black residents from the city, to the point where now, you know, we don't know what our future is in the city of Oakland, when the median income to rent an affordable space is $40 an hour to be able to afford the average 2-bedroom apartment. And so when we say what's the new Oakland agenda, I can say we can see what the current Oakland agenda is by the leadership that's currently in place. And that's one where working people and poor people can't afford to live here. And it's a bedroom community for San Francisco and for techies. That's not an Oakland that I support. And I will work with anybody that wants to push back on that current agenda, anybody. So if you're down for the heart and soul of the town, I'm down to fight with you, to fight for you, to fight, you know, get behind you, to have your back, whatever it takes to make sure that people can afford to live here and live here peacefully and be able to thrive. So I hope that answers your question. Ethel, call me anytime. April, there was another question I wanted to answer that came up right before Ethel's, and I think we have time for maybe one more. How can we bring more revenue into the city to pay for pandemic response and get people housed? Actually, there are quite a few opportunities that we can utilize to bring in revenue to the city of Oakland. Right now, we can work in deeper partnership with Alameda County that has far more reserves and far more resources than the city of Oakland. We need to be in closer partnership. There are places that we can tax that are currently going without having to pay revenues to the city of Oakland that the Alameda County assessor could access today if there was a partnership between the city council members and our board of supervisors. I want to create that bridge. I want to build and strengthen that bridge. There are resources that we can get from taxing wealthy corporations, the ones who don't have to pay their fair share of taxes to the city. We can do that on the state level with reforming Prop 13 through Schools and Communities First. And we can also do that on a local level with a gross receipts tax that I've been working on for the last year. Unfortunately, it was pushed down the road and kicked out of council by our conservative caucus, but we can change that with the proper community education and information. Those are a few things that I think we can do immediately. Get revenues from the state, get revenue from the county, and create our own progressive tax measure that makes these large corporations invest in the city that they benefit so much from. And in terms of housing, there's so much we can do. I'm really looking forward to several creative solutions, but the funding that I just listed, those measures are necessary to fund the projects that we need to fund post-COVID and for affordable housing and social housing, because some people just cannot afford. There's seniors who can't afford to pay their students. There's so many populations that need care and support. So we have to pay attention to them and make sure that they're taken care of too. Next question, last question. How will you hold the city accountable when they try to do an end run around council? How will I hold the city council when I do an end run around city council? From Emily, how will you hold the city accountable when they try to do an end run around council? Well, if I'm elected, when I'm elected, I believe that we'll have a much stronger consensus with the elected officials if we keep the current configuration. Right now, there are incumbents that are in races this year in 2020 in District 1 and District 5 and at large. Right now, I will be really straight with folks. Our existing council member in District 1 has been a huge supporter of tenants' rights. Dan Kolb has actually gone to Sacramento to advocate for statewide legislation to protect tenants. And he's been an advocate for tenants' rights. I can't say that for every city council member, but I can say that Dan Kolb and Rebecca Kaplan are two council members that always support tenants. And it would be a tragedy in a housing crisis, in a housing affordability crisis, to lose their seats to a real estate developer and an individual who has shown and stated very clearly in different forums that they would do everything in their power to get tenants out of their homes. So I think that's really scary for me. So I think it's important to state that if we have the current configuration with my addition to city council, I think we can avoid these end runs as long as we can keep the mayor from coming in and breaking tie votes. That's been a common occurrence in the last several budget cycles with allocations, or when we're trying to make creative allocations to address shortfalls in the city budget and in areas that we want to see done differently. Oh, so when they try to do an end run around city staff, city staff, like with public lands policy. I don't want to assume what you're talking about, Emily, but I can say that right now the city of Oakland does not have a concretized public lands policy, and part of that is because some of the city staff or some of the city council members are influenced by city staff that aren't impacted by elected officials. And I have some recommendations for that too. I think that's not something I would talk about in public because I think it requires direct action. I think when our voices are not heard through the democratic process, then we have to engage good trouble. And that is making our voices heard in other ways. That's what Barbara Lee and other elected officials, when they were activists, called street heat. So we got to turn up the street heat when the democratic process doesn't work. Because I'm going to tell you what, they will say that when you make phone calls and send emails, then you're not being reasonable. But then when you shut stuff down, that's too much. And then when you run for office, that's divisive. When folks have an agenda and it's counter to yours and it's counter to the democratic process, no matter what we do, it will be problematic. So we have to turn up the heat in order to even address the staff folks who are obstructing the people's voice around our use of public lands and other policies that come before the voters and the residents at city council meetings. There are ways. Next question. Oh, it's time to wrap up, folks, is what they're saying. And that makes sense because we've gone, once again, way over 30 minutes because there's so much to talk about. I think maybe in the future we should probably have one guest because I feel like there's so much to discuss that we need to be able to get into the weeds and hear from folks. But I appreciate anyone who stayed tuned in to this message, to this broadcast. On our social media, all of our social media platforms. Thanks for tuning in. Carol for Council District 3, 2020. We'll be back to hit you up next Thursday. Stay safe, stay hydrated, and only everything that we love is on the line. So I'll see y'all next Thursday. Thanks for tuning in.